Ready?
I am ready.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry Podcast. My guest today, Melanie Milburn or Milborn?
Milburn.
Milburn. Okay. Melanie, how are you?
I am doing great.
Yeah?
I'm doing great. I've got my coffee. I'm good to go.
There you go. We just got done with, what, about 45 minutes or more of conversation?
I know. We probably should have just put it all on the air. Maybe not.
Yeah. So you're running for alderman.
I am alderman, Ward
Okay.
6.
Ward 6. Okay. Why?
Well, actually, it has to do with service.
Okay.
Service of my community. Military time taught me that, the service before self,
Sure.
excellence in what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those type of things. I feel like I have a lot to offer and to give to Ocean Springs to make it a better place. I think I could serve the community well.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm more convinced of that now than when we first met because we've had such great conversation, right? Of course, not to say anything bad, but yeah, you've got a pretty interesting service career, right?
I do.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe just go over the kind of bullet points because I mean
Sure.
you were you were in the service, you were an officer in the Air Force, so tell us about that real quick.
Well, I can start off with saying grew up in Biloxi.
Yeah, there you go.
Biloxi High, graduated Biloxi High. My mom graduated Biloxi High. But growing up, the high school was right across the street from the Air Force Base. And
Okay.
you could look out and you could see the airmen marching in the Triangle area with briefcases in their hands. And I kind of thought, wow, who would do that? But needless to say, I went up to the University of Southern Mississippi getting a degree in elementary education originally. And my friends were all ROTC, talked about how great the military was and how great the Air Force was and that I should go talk to somebody. And I did. And they said, well, we don't need elementary education degrees. The airmen have passed elementary education. So changed my degree to mathematics and decided this is where I want to go. And the service part of it, you go to your first basic training and you really look at the history of what the military's done for our country and how the military members love their country. And it was a service thing for me then. So
What drove you to that? Like, was it something in the history that drove this sort of passion or feeling that you needed to serve? Or
my stepfather, who's been my stepfather for years, over 30 years now, he was military.
Okay.
Retired as Master Sergeant out at Keesler.
Oh, okay.
And I really respect him and look up to him. And to me, it was just an honorable thing to do, to be able to step up and say, I'm here to do whatever the country needs me to do. So,
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's interesting how we tend to want to emulate people that we think are people we can be that do amazing things. It's sort of a goal that they are, a pinnacle of what we want to achieve. And in order to achieve that, we try to emulate those people, their actions.
And my mom, she also worked out at Keesler for 30 years.
Oh, okay.
In the housing office most of the time. And so she got to meet everyone that came into the base had to go to the housing office. So
right.
She got to meet a lot of people and growing up and being younger, there were a lot of times that I was in her office hanging out and just the type of people you have in the military are a bit of a high caliber. So,
There you go.
I think they are.
Awesome. Okay. So Ward 6, tell us about Ward 6.
Ward 6, it's probably the largest ward land-wise, but not the most people in Ward 6. And it's actually close to, where Walmart is, to the west of Walmart, to Dina Road. It goes that direction. And then to the west, to the east, goes all the way out to Highway 57 pretty much.
Okay.
So, lot of land, a lot of properties, and everyone's talking about the development of East Ocean Springs, and that would be Ward 6.
Oh yeah, for sure. All of Ward 6. So what are your thoughts on how to develop out in East Ocean Springs?
I think we need to develop out in East Ocean Springs. Now, when I was growing up, anything past probably, 2 miles before that was just all woods in Ocean Springs, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity for the city of Ocean Springs to have an economic impact. I'm not talking big box stores all over the place out there, but I do think that there is a lot we can do in East Ocean Springs to serve the people, all the new homes that are being built out that direction, the new homes that were being built by the high school, the new homes being built off of Riley Road, close to where I live in Trentwood. There's a lot of people out there that now have to go all the way into Ocean Springs for a lot of the things they need. So
yeah. So what is it about the box stores that you're weary of?
Ocean Springs is known as a quaint, small town feel kind of place, and to have something like, D'Iberville has with the promenade and all that just is, I feel it's too commercialized for Ocean Springs. Ocean Springs is a different feel to me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and I've had people on here that say, well, everybody leaves Ocean Springs to go there, and while that's true, obviously it's not 100% true, but while many people leave Ocean Springs to go spend money over there, the better question I have is, would they rather do that than have all the trappings of all that hustle and bustle in East Ocean Springs? Because there's a trade-off there, right?
There is a trade-off there.
If you have, that line that has Best Buy and it's got Bed Bath & Beyond, if you had just that line, I mean, imagine all the traffic that's going to bring. You're going to lose all of the scenery.
You will. My kids now, I've bounce things off of them because my oldest daughter's a senior at Ocean Springs and she's going to the University of Alabama next year. And she kind of thinks out of the box, but she said, Mom, quite honestly, if we could have something out here for the teens, something they could do. I know Biloxi has Big Play and they have Finish Line and those type of things, but the teenagers, I would always say, well, what are y'all doing tonight? And they would go down to the beach because that's the only thing that's suited for them. Downtown Ocean Springs in the evening on the weekends, not suited for, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, something to do. So they're throwing at me ideas for maybe we could think of something that would be family friendly to do out in East Ocean Springs for the kids.
Did they give any ideas? Anything more specific or a type of thing? Like you mentioned Big Play. So.
Yeah, something similar to maybe that.
A drive-in theater would be cool. I told him, I said, a drive-in theater I think would be fun. I'd go. We went and saw a movie in California because I was first stationed out there at Travis. And man, that was such a fun experience. I did it one time. And after the one time I went home and I built a box that had speakers in it because it was all off your AM radio because I wanted to have a better sound setup, but not have to run the car. And of course, the weather in California is amazing at night. But we set up lawn chairs in the back of the truck and we had the boom box there that I built, and it was fantastic.
And to me, it's clean fun for the kids, and they get to go see a movie and hang out with their friends, and they're not being run off from the beach because it's later than they want people out at the beach, which I understand for safety reasons. They don't want them all hanging out there. But yeah, well, when I went to the drive-in theater, it was a drive-in over in Biloxi, and they had just the little square things that you sat in your window, so the sound quality was not all that great, but it was still a good time.
Sure, but that's an experience in and of itself. It would be neat though, if it was something to the effect where the vehicles were on like terrace levels, that'd be pretty slick, kind of like the old silver screen, out there at Edgewater.
But yeah, I think, getting away from big box stores and stuff like that, something for the kids, some entertainment for the kids out there or for the family as a whole would be awesome.
It is sort of a paradox though, right? Because it's a large investment for a smaller business to come and invest in an area that's undeveloped, right? So in effect, you have to have it pre-developed by a large box store that has gravity and people will be attracted to it. So that's the idea with the whole anchor store concept, and hopefully Aldi's going to help that in a major way. But a good example is the restaurant that's outside of Lakeview.
Yep.
That has a hard time keeping people in it, and it's unfortunate because I've gone into it when it was the Italian restaurant, when it was the Mexican restaurant,
seafood.
Yeah. And the layout's fantastic. You know, I always thought it'd be a great sports bar.
Yeah.
You know, surely it would survive by just the people there. They could walk home.
Yep,
you know?
exactly. Shoot, I could walk home to Trentwood from there. So. Be a little bit of a hike, but I could do it.
Yeah. I played basketball at Trentwood quite a bit, but
yeah, the Aldi store. You know, I shopped at Aldi up when I was stationed in Maryland a lot.
I've never been into an Aldi.
Very, very nice stores.
I've heard too that so you pay $0.25 to get a cart, and then you get the $0.25 back, which I love this. I love this system. And then some people, as you're bringing the cart back, they'll just give you $0.25 and they take the cart. And I don't know why that tickles me so much, but I love it.
But doing that, they actually save a lot of money because they now don't have to hire the people to go out and gather the carts. You go to Walmart and there's always at least one or two people out there having to gather the carts, bring them back in.
Yeah.
Well, Aldi doesn't have that problem. They may have one person in case there's a stray cart out there, but then he gets a $0.25 tip when he brings it back. So,
yeah, look, I think it's an amazing concept. It essentially costs Aldi no money to save all the money that they're saving. Right. And it's purely just the right incentive scheme. That's all it is. Like, it's a great example of like a well-designed, well thought out and simple socioeconomic solution to carts.
A simple thing, you know, there's a lot of simple things that we all go, golly, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah. What are some simple things in Ocean Springs?
Oh gosh. Simple things in Ocean Springs.
Not that many.
I'm learning more and more about the complications of a lot of things in Ocean Springs.
Goodness, I've learned so much just interviewing everybody, and both on and offline, you know, conversations. It's fascinating. Like, you know, we were talking before the show, the fact that simply the definition of a townhome, you know, with the sands, and we won't go into it, but just like that was fascinating to me that was, you know, that much of an issue and how complex just even that is, you know what I mean?
Well, when you look at some of the codes and stuff, and when words say shall or will, and who interprets that to be you have to or you don't have to kind of thing, there's complications. So when you say simple, it's not always so simple.
Here's something interesting, and you'll probably appreciate this. So there's an organization that basically, you know, there's an organization for everything, but there's a national organization for, I think, litigators or legislatures. But anyway, they're suggesting that people get away from using the word shall, because shall no longer means that you're compelled to do something.
But to me, it means that.
It means that, right. But the problem is that it's been so misquoted or misused in legislation that they're recommending that lawyers or whoever writes legislation or policy to no longer use the word shall. It's must. Because apparently shall means command, and command has to have consequence. And this came up in a debate, I think was out in Oklahoma, because there was an ordinance that people shall wear a mask, but there was no consequence laid out in that. So shall in that situation actually didn't mean shall.
Wow.
It means should. So you have to have a consequence of command. And then with consequence of command, it has to be a realizable or actionable command. And if you have no authority to actually enforce it, shall does not mean command.
Right.
It's an interesting thing.
Well, there was a lot of, I would have to review contracts in the Air Force, especially if we were doing a manpower study, looking at whether or not we keep it in-house for the military or we let it go out to a contractor. And words like that can change the whole meaning of a document on what the contractor can and can't do. And there were times that the military, because of words like that, when they'd go to the contractor, after the contract was let, and we'd say, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. Oh, no. It doesn't say we have to do that. It says we can do that, or so you got to watch those words a lot.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but that type of, I don't like meticulous things. I love that. Like I absolutely love it.
And you got to make sure you're reading every single
thing. And so that gave me this weird superpower in the Air Force, because I realized what more I could do, things I could leverage, the gray area I was walking in, and I became kind of a formidable person if I was really motivated to get something done. You know, there's a lot
to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing.
And bureaucratic inertia.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to fight it.
So let me ask you this. What stores would be ideal for you to come into East Ocean Springs? What's the right store for your ward?
You know what? I I love the small shops in downtown Ocean Springs. And quite honestly, if we could build something similar to downtown Ocean Springs with the walking into the quaint little art shops or the clothing stores or that type of thing, where it almost be similar to a mirror image of what's downtown on the east side, because so many people love going downtown, but
100%.
Parking and other things keep people a lot of times from going down there. But if we had something similar in a mirroring effect on the other side of town, I think that would be awesome.
I do too. So this is me just thinking about that as you say it. Like, I think it's a great idea, 100%. The concern I think about is like, well, there's so many access problems in downtown Ocean Springs, you know, and whatnot. And if you built East Ocean Springs, you take that into account. And so it
would make more accessibility by rebuilding,
which might take away from downtown. So I can see there might be an incentive or maybe a bit of caution about too much development like that in East Ocean Springs.
But you know, Ocean Springs is that quaint town, beautiful town. And quite honestly, I don't think you're ever going to take anything away from downtown Ocean Springs.
Sure. I mean, it really is an amazing place. And
I did a short job down there.
Oh, did you?
A friend of mine owned the breakfast joint down there, and I applied and I worked serving people breakfast, and I did that right after I retired.
That's cool.
To get to meet the people of the city of Ocean Springs, being originally from Biloxi, but deciding that Ocean Springs was where I wanted to live. Being there every morning at 5 a.m., there's no parking problems in downtown Ocean Springs. But when I would get off, there'd be a little bit of problems. But I met so many interesting people in downtown Ocean Springs just working down there. Yeah. And I don't think anything in East Ocean Springs, even if it was very similar to downtown, would ever take away that charm and the draw for the people to go to downtown Ocean Springs. Yeah,
that's a good point. I kind of envisioned, so you were in the Air Force, you said you're in Germany, you spent some time in Germany?
Spent some time in Germany, Italy.
So which base in Germany?
Germany, I was at Ramstein.
So you spent some time in like Kaiserslautern, right?
Kaiserslautern.
Launchstuhl, and you've got that long pebble gravel, not gravel, what am I trying to say? Rock paved walkway that had stores and people lived above it. I kind of envisioned something like that.
Italy, just being European. Able to go in downtown Aviano, Italy. Mm-hmm. You know, you could walk from your house, and on the weekends they would have the markets and the cheese and the olives and all of that, and it was all enclosed, and the roads were closed for all the little shops to sell what they needed to sell on the weekends. And I love that, and I miss that.
Yeah. When I was so I would fly through Sicily a lot, and I was excited if we landed around 10 a.m. or before, because I knew that I could make it to the markets there. It was difficult to make a transaction, you know, because I didn't know how to speak Italian.
Quanta Costa. I don't remember what the words were in Italian, but I just remember I asked it a lot. Yeah. How much is this? How much is this?
Yeah, but it was great, and the food was amazing, you know, and it was all local, and it was amazing.
But after 1 o'clock, don't try to buy anything because they all have their siesta.
That's right. I love that too.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. From 1 to 3, you just get to relax and then go back to work later. Mm-hmm. But then they had to work till like 7 or 8 at night. So.
Right. When I was in Rota, Spain, we landed at a time during the siesta, and so we were at the beach down there, and we couldn't get any sangria, and you know, it's tough. It's a tough life. You know, I flew over here at a 22-hour day. I want some sangria.
Exactly.
You know?
When are you going to open?
I know.
And then when they put a sign up that says we'll be back at 2 o'clock, it might be 2:30 or 3 by the time they get there.
That's right. That's 100% correct. I always felt like an arrogant American in those cases. Like, this is an entire country. It's a civilization out here, and you feel inconvenient because you can't drink. Yep. At the same time, it's like, come on, man.
You know, to us, a lot of times it's about making the money. To them, if we make money, we make money. If not, you know, we're good.
Yeah, it's. I feel the tide shifting a bit in that in America, and not to get on bigger politics, but that might be a convenient segue. A lot of times we talk about, say, the Mary C, and the Mary C seems to be this intersection of art and culture within the city, either explicitly or implicitly. It seems that that's true, right? the issue with the Mary C that's happened over the past year that's a bit embarrassing. A lot of the talk seems to be centered around money, right? And income and how much it's generating and paying the bills, all that's important. But do you think that maybe the Mary C might be so important that we should have a capacity for profit loss through the Mary C because of what it represents to the city?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Although the Mary C has so much potential.
Yeah.
I think to make a lot, I'm not an artist. I can appreciate it. Mm-hmm. When my daughters were little and had to do school projects, their stick figures looked way better than the ones I was drawing. But so I'm not an artist, but I can appreciate it. And I think that there is so much we can do with the Mary C. My mom actually went to 10th grade in that building.
Oh, no kidding.
They had moved over to Ocean Springs for about a year. She went to 10th grade in that building and then went back to Biloxi and graduated Biloxi High. But the building's beautiful. The artists that we have here in the area
are amazing. Yeah.
They're amazing. The things that we could do with the Mary C, I can't see it not making money or at least being self-sustaining. But if not, I think there should be room to help out the Mary C.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, art's a funny thing, especially in the traditional sense, like paintings and whatnot. Most artists, they don't make money until they die, you know, and that's the unfortunate side of it. So I think there's probably got to be some sort of commitment that the Mary C has and with the city's backing that we're accepting the role, which I don't think is a problem, of being the art and culture intersection of the city, the nexus of art and culture, but also being an agency for artists, you know, a sort of chamber of artistry, you know, like reaching out, helping them platform themselves and things of that nature.
Yeah, promotion.
You know? Yeah, exactly. Basically, you know, and I think through that we'll get, I think the incentives will make it more attractive, maybe for other people to come in and showcase their art.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, she's a freshman at the high school. My oldest is a senior, but she did some of the theater stuff.
Oh, too cool.
In the Mary C, and she really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
loved it, and they were just little kids, but it was very entertaining, and I don't know. I liked going and watching her.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of ideas do you have for the Mary C?
I have looked around. I think some more art classes, whether it be art classes for the younger generation or if it's art classes for the older, senior citizens, to go in there and do some art classes and to learn. For me, you know, I go to those paint by number kind of things, and it turns out looking pretty good because I have somebody showing me how to do it.
Right, right.
I really think whether it be, you know, pottery classes or painting classes or classes like that, I would love to go to a lot of those classes. And I don't know that they have a whole lot of those going on right now.
My wife tells me there's a gentleman in Ocean Springs who does classes. He does them in his home, but it's pottery. But at the end of it, you end up with a dining set. Yeah,
wow.
Right. And so I was like, man, it'd be great to get something like that in the Mary C. And she's like, well, he does it out of his house. I was like, yeah, but think about the income that could be generated from that. Like, because that sounds like a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what a pottery set goes for. I have to, you know, find that out. But you get to charge the experience, essentially the pottery set, you know, but also he could just do it like 4 times a year, once a quarter. Well, now it becomes something highly desirable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could upcharge for something like that because of the exclusivity.
And it's something that you're making that's very personal to you that's going to go in your house.
100%.
That's a big time selling point there. So.
Absolutely. And, you know, honestly, I get this from working the trades and whatnot and woodworking. There's something primal about building something yourself, taking a raw material, you know, and manifesting something through your own will, you know, when you're power on that thing. There's something to that I don't get from any other experience, you know?
Well, it's not art, but I've done plenty of laminate flooring going down and quarter round and
sure,
you know, and molding and all kinds of other stuff. And wasn't fun. It wasn't art, but when I finished, it looked really good, and I was really proud of myself. So yeah, there is that sense of pride.
Well, I don't know. I think that's still art, right? Because that's an experience. I mean, it's your take on what a home should look like. It's your expression, and if art is expression of self, then I'd say that's artistry right there.
Yeah. Well, when my kids decide they want to paint their rooms like this bright blue teal looking.
I'm not saying all art's good art.
Okay.
Or is my kind of art either. I should say that. Listen, I've painted a room pink before. So yeah.
Been there, done that. It's now gray because she's, 14 now, and the pink just doesn't do it for her anymore. So
I have no artistic training, right? But for me, everything seems to be going gray. And it's bland, like interior homes, like you kind of want. And to me, I think like, God, are we losing the sort of, is this an indication that we're losing individuality?
So the orange countertops and the lime green carpet, you're kind of wanting to go back to that?
No.
Just wondering.
All I'm saying is that like all the homes, like the Craftsman homes that are being built, it seems like they all just look the same.
White, gray.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no color to it. There's very little accent. It's as if you want to live in a clean room, where they make hard drives, Yep. And I don't know. For me, that's too much order.
Well, I go into some of those houses and I think, man, I'm scared to sit down on their, furniture that they've got as their model home furniture. My house, you just plop down. It's very comfortable. And
I got 3 cats. It's a full-time job not to let people know that you have a cat when you walk in a house. So.
Tried 2 cats and 2 dogs.
Okay. So, I got one dog. But
3 of them are rescues, and the other one we had gotten when we were stationed out in Abilene at Dyess Air Force Base. So he's just a little toy Australian Shepherd. And actually, when they did the landing, 1699 landing, my daughter was one of the girls that was in the reenactment, and they had the dog walk up to downtown. And then they did little awards, and he got voted the cutest dog in Ocean Springs.
No big deal.
Yeah, he's still got his medal. He keeps it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've always wanted a Maine Coon.
Friend of mine has one.
Really?
That cat would take up this whole...
There are 2 things that I love about, that I desire in a cat. They're very chatty, right? So I like ragdolls. I like Siamese cats, and they're large. I like large cats.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I get up into my bed and one of them will come up right next to my ear and I just stop.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I want my cats to talk to me, when I talk to them. And
mine talk to me, but I've got one though that it's on her time.
Yeah.
One of them, she's like a dog. She was raised by the toy Australian Shepherd, so she's like a dog. But the other cat, it's on her time. If she wants to talk, she'll talk. But if not, she's walking away.
Yeah, fair enough. We were supposed to go to Quitski's recently because they did a fundraiser for the Feral Feline Coalition. I think that's what it is, but ended up having a schedule conflict. But anyway, getting back to stuff. Yeah. One on the show, we just talked about cats the whole time. Which I'm fine with. We can certainly transition. But what are your thoughts on executive session?
Well, as well as I do, in the military, there were a lot of executive sessions.
100%.
Yeah, because some of the decisions being made were not always decisions that people wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the citizens need to know what's being talked about. It's a different community than in the military. We're not planning a mission that if it leaked out, we could end up hurting people.
Or affecting national security.
Right. I think executive sessions should be kept to a minimum. I think it should be laid out so that the people in the city of Ocean Springs know if decisions are being made against something they believe in or for something they believe in. Personnel issues, though, need to be done behind closed doors, just like in any job. If there's reprimand, then it needs to be done behind closed doors or rules broken or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now, positive feedback needs to be done in an open forum.
Sure.
So,
right.
But I feel like executive sessions in Ocean Springs need to be kept to a minimum.
So how do we reconcile that with the proper use of executive session, or maybe make it more transparent, where they're worried about being sued. The city attorney says, hey, we need to go into executive session. That's because, again, it probably comes from, well, we're concerned we might get sued. Now that excuse might become tired because they use it too much. But like, is there any way we can gain some sort of access to say, like, okay, can you at least clean up some sort of meeting minutes?
That's exactly my thought.
Yeah.
You can go in there because of the potential that there could be a problem, but you go down, you go into the meeting, you discuss it, and you realize there's really not a reason for this to have had to come into executive session. And if there's not, then you make it public knowledge what was discussed. Now, if it's something that it could be a cause for litigation or anything else, then you're going to have to, I guess, clean it up and make it a little more vague. But I think that there needs to be transparency into what's going on in the city. And
I think that they do or can do the minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know for sure. The only reason I know it's possible is because when WLX had the article about them going into an executive session for the firm that they paid $30,000 to, and unfortunately didn't get a business out of it. To be fair, the money was allocated for that sort of thing, but they didn't do any meeting minutes on that.
Oh.
And so that's, by virtue of highlighting that they didn't do meeting minutes, it leads me to believe that they could do meeting minutes. And to me, that seems like an easy kill, right? Because your lawyer is going to probably be the one to doctor it up for you.
Yep, they're going to review it and make sure that there's not anything in there.
Exactly. So I don't know. That's the question I have that doesn't really make sense to me. But
even public meetings, some things can be said that could get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed that talking to aldermen that are running, right, incumbents, they'll get to a response and then they'll just stop talking. And it's because they're working through their mind. I assume, like, okay, I can answer this. Okay. And they're going through the next thought. I can say that. Okay. Can't say that. And then it becomes this like weird kind of awkward pause, like, okay, yeah, we're totally moving on. Yep.
Well, that's kind of like, is that classified information, or is that, and at what level of classification can we talk about here? Oh,
yeah. So. Yeah, that happened a lot when I worked in the special operations community, because we'd be talking about something and then we'd get close to something that might be on the fringe, and I'd have to think like, oh, man, do they have the right security clearance for this?
Yeah. Should we be talking about this right here? Are there windows? Any listening devices?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got a weird way of saying things in the military, listening devices. Although what's really funny is walkie-talkie. Like, it's this military radio that's got a child's name,
Yeah.
It's not like intergalactic space modulator. Like it says exactly what it does. It's like, well, what's it do? Well, you walkie.
And you can
talkie.
Exactly.
It's a walkie-talkie.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. But anyway, so moving on from executive session, there are things that we do need to talk about, in the open, and for obvious reasons. It's kind of the bedrock of, like, the American, experiment. Do you have any particular examples about executive session that maybe? Because I can think like the Mary C's low hanging fruit. That's definitely one of those. I think conversation about the sands might be one of those that go in there. But the irony, and again, I don't know this about the sands, but the irony, if they did go into executive session about the sands, it's pretty public now.
Yeah, it's out in the open.
Yeah.
So, and I know very little about it. I know just enough to probably that it could get me in trouble one way or another.
Sure. Yeah.
At this point, I got to wait till I do a little more research.
Fair enough. So, as you mentioned before, you grew up in Biloxi, and yet you decided to settle in Ocean Springs.
I did.
So, what made you come over?
Well, my last assignment was at Keesler, and my daughters were going to I lived on base. And it was kind of nice living on base because I had a house on the water And that's not something you can easily afford to live.
Was this post Katrina or pre?
This is after. This was in 2012.
Gotcha.
And the houses were pretty much brand new that they rebuilt.
The Oster housing over there was really nice.
Yeah, right on the water. We could walk down to the pier and go fishing or
right near the golf course too. Yeah.
Couldn't quite walk there. Oh yeah, I could too. I could pretty much walk to the golf course. So, but so it was really nice living there. And on a base, you have a sense of community. Biloxi growing up, I mean, when I was growing up, I think the population might have been about 25,000, 30,000 in Biloxi.
Wow.
And when I left to go in the military in about 1990 is when they first started getting the riverboat casinos. And so when I came back, it was like a whole different city to me in Biloxi. I love Biloxi, love this, love the people in Biloxi, but so when I lived on base, it was that sense of community that I've had for 25 years. Biloxi ballooned up so much, and I started looking at Ocean Springs. I remember when I was in high school, the big thing to do was to cruise Front Beach. Yeah. You'd go up, you'd go down, one of the streets, turn around, go past the yacht club, come back down, cruise in a circle. And it was just kind of a small, sleepy town, fun place to be. And so I started looking at Ocean Springs when I was looking to buy a home. And decided this was the place for us. And my girls love the schools here.
Yeah. Well, the schools are peerless.
They are. And substituting in the schools.
That's right. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that's something else you do.
Substituting in the schools for years at Oak Park. Oak Park was one of my favorite elementary schools. And I still, if I'm at Dirt Cheap and they have tons of school supplies, on sale for 50-cent pencil pouches or backpacks or whatever, I'll just pick up a bunch of stuff, take it to Oak Park and give it to Dr. Pope because I love Oak Park, but subbing in the schools, the upper elementary, the middle school, you can see that we have just got some of the best schools. That we've got the best schools in the state, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, for sure. And the when I tell people about the classes I was able to take in Ocean Springs, they'll a common response is like, you were able to do that in high school. Because you meet people from all over the country in the military, and I took psychology, sociology, genetics, microbiology, all that stuff. Like you did that in high school. You weren't like dual enroll or anything. No. That was pretty basic. And for me, it was I guess I was kind of spoiled to kind of have access to that. I mean, I met my wife in piano class in high school. My daughter took guitar 2 years ago.
I would have never had guitar in high school. Well, I probably wouldn't have been able to play because, like I said, I'm not artsy kind of person. I'd love to learn to play the piano, but
I was real annoying as I was younger, and so I would learn enough to be annoying. And so, for example, I learned how to play the beginning of Cold as Ice. And so every week we had to do a recital. That was like our test, our weekly test. So we had to learn a song all week and we play it. And my piano teacher, bless her heart, she's so sweet. But she every time she'd say, Brian, you're not going to play Cold as Ice. And so I'd work it in some way to the song. I'd find a way to throw it in there, either as an intro, outro, or somewhere as a bridge. But yeah.
Well, we went to eat, I guess, probably about 3 weeks ago, we went to Phoenicia to eat.
Okay.
And they have the one person playing the piano in one room. Then the room we were sitting in, there's a piano, but no one playing it. And there were about 10 of us at the table. And someone said, does anyone know how to play the piano? I said, oh, sure, I do. So I got up and got on the piano. I played chopsticks and took my bow and sat down. But that's about the extent of my piano.
I saw this guy on YouTube who taught you, who said, if you want to trick people into thinking you know how to play piano, use these 5 chords in like a different sequence. And it worked out. It really did. Like everything he played just sounded great, and so there's a trick to it. I'm sure there's a trick to it. I probably ran into people that don't know how to play an instrument, but they've just mastered the way to trick me. So
my family, I've got a pretty musical family, but I didn't get those genes. I don't think.
Most of my friends were musicians. I played football and basketball, but I hung out mostly with the band kids because I just like those kind of outlier types of types of people, honestly. And Ocean Springs produces so much talent that people don't realize. A good friend of mine, David Sewell, he's a music professor at Arizona State, I think. There's another girl that played flute, and she is a professor up in New York. I mean, and that's just my grade.
Well, I one of the things that I did probably going into the second year in Ocean Springs is for the middle school, because both my daughters played in the band. I was the middle school band booster president for 2 years in a row. So watching those kids and watching them go from sixth grade up to going into high school, amazing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with our teachers, our band teachers at Ocean Springs. They are simply amazing. If I substitute taught, if one of them was going to be out, they'd call me to sub in the band classes. But those kids are amazing. They thrive. They love it. Every year we would do what's called Houndapalooza down at Fort Maurepas. And it was organized by the Band Booster Club, and we'd sell hamburgers and hot dogs and pizza. And the kids, it wasn't mandatory for them to do. It was sponsored by the Booster Club. So it really wasn't a school function that they had to come to. Wasn't forced. They all came.
Yeah.
Because they loved to go out there, and they'd get up on the stage at Fort Maurepas and they'd play for their parents and their friends. And
that's awesome.
And it's just a great thing for the kids to be able to do every year. And they're doing it again this year.
Good.
I got something on my email. They're looking for sponsors for it, for the Houndapalooza. And it usually happens in May, sometime around the third week of May, but I'm not exactly sure of the date. But
I don't mean to put you on the spot. How would a business get in touch, or who would they get in touch with to sponsor?
I don't know who the band booster president is this year, but I could definitely get that information.
Yeah, I'll throw it on the website, and then if somebody wants that information, they can go check it out. shopandchivalry.com.
Because what they do is they go to businesses, and we would go to businesses and ask for sponsorship. And if they actually pay or sponsor, I think it's $200, then their logo or their name gets put on the back of the T-shirt, so we get the kids. And through their sponsorship, it pays for the T-shirts.
Yeah.
And it's pretty phenomenal what we do every year and what the band does every year is they let the kids design the front of the T-shirt.
Okay.
So it'll say Houndapalooza, and the kids design it. The band teachers then narrow down to say the top 5 designs, and then they let the band students pick the one they want on the T-shirt.
That's awesome.
We get the T-shirts made for free for the kids with sponsorship, and then the sponsors' names get put on the back of the T-shirt.
That's amazing.
I still have like 3 Houndapalooza T-shirts.
Well, the band production at, say, halftime and at football games, it's not what you'd expect from a high school team, and especially just around here in general in the area. It's a sophisticated production.
It is. It really is. My daughter, her first year at the high school, it was treacherous having to go for the summer camp, the band camp, because it's July. It's 100 degrees outside, and they're out there marching, but they're there every day. She had the band tan, they'd call it.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
But they work hard. Ocean Springs band, whether it be middle school or the high school, the band works really, really hard, and it shows in their performances.
Look, I took notice. I mean, we'd be on the track when I did track and field. I'd be running around the track, and you'd have the band out there, and they'd still be doing their thing because they did competitions as well outside of just performing at halftime. Now, when I was in California, I realized how phenomenal Ocean Springs was in this department, because I went to a high school football game out there, and it was like maybe 20, 25 kids, and they just stood out there. There was no movement. There was, they just stood out there, played a couple songs, a dismal dance team.
Yeah.
It was
our dance team is phenomenal too at the high school.
Every bit
and not
of it,
to take away from the football team, but I tell you what, when
there's more to that night.
When that band starts playing, people are clapping, people are singing the fight song. It's just,
there's not a good time to get up and go to the restroom.
Right.
During a Greyhound football game.
Right.
There's just not. So, goodness. Okay. Let's get back to it. This is great. Yeah. This is fantastic. So let's talk about annexation and growth, because you're in East Ocean Springs, and so there's there's a lot in that area. The high school is in that area, and it's outside of city limits. You got new, nice neighborhoods popping up in that area outside of city limits. If we're going to develop East Ocean Springs, we got to talk about moving up 57. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
Moving up Ocean Springs Road toward 57 in that area, there are people out there that are for it and people that are against it. I've spoken to a few, and I think it would be great for Ocean Springs economically. But the residents out there, I think some of them like their county life, which I don't blame anyone. I've got property up in the country in Stone County. I've got 18 acres, and to go out there, it's just very relaxing.
Sure.
And I think what they would look at is if we did do that, it could be a benefit for them and for us, but we'd have to look at infrastructure. We'd have to look at fire departments. And I think we would make sure we'd have to follow the rules on how long we have to bring it up to par.
It's like 5 years, right?
I think it's 2 years.
Is it 2?
I may not be positive, but I think it's 2 years to fully.
I've heard 2, 5, and 8.
Well, we'll just have to research that and figure out which one it is. I'm sure somebody will leave me a message on my cell phone and let me know.
100%. Yeah. So that's something. Okay. So what about, say, where the high school is?
I always wondered why that wasn't in the city limits when I first moved back from Biloxi.
Well, there's a rule in Mississippi. So in the Mississippi Constitution, public school must be provided by the state. And so that's built into the land management as well. So I want to say it's like 6th acre or 7th acre has to be, or the state or city or municipality. I'm butchering this, but they can take advantage of eminent domain to build a school there. And so that allows them to strategically have a school around population centers and more schools. And I think that was one of those situations. I actually think the middle school was one of them too.
Probably.
Yeah. So that might be why. And of course it makes sense because if you'll notice, like all the schools are on government except for Pecan Park.
Right.
It seems like that might be the case.
Well, and for me, strategically placing where I wanted to live, knowing that my kids were soon to be out of the upper elementary and into the middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
I shifted out that direction.
Yeah. So are you, you must be in city limits, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. So what about those homes in that area? Would you look towards annexing those areas as well? I guess under the same sort of caution, like consider it with also understanding we've got to do some things to bring it into compliance,
right.
Fire and police and whatnot.
And yeah, I would agree with that
area.
Annexing in that area.
Yeah. Some people have talked about annexing all the way north of I-10 and taking in like the Shed, kind of stopping there.
I'm not so sure about that. I haven't really looked into it enough. They were talking about going up to the Preserve golf course, and that's a lot of area.
Yeah.
And
it gives you access to the interstate.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So I'm not real sure about that.
Fair enough. Well, annexations are complicated issues. When I was speaking with Doug Walker, the areas of North Biloxi that were annexed, I think he's the one who told me 5 years on bringing everything into compliance, but 20 years later, they're still not on city water,
Right.
And that's, that's kind of insulting to the citizens,
I own a house over there.
Oh, really?
Off of Cedar Lake Road. And it's funny because the house you could almost ride your bicycle to Biloxi High School. But because of the way the annexation was done and everything else, the renters that I have in that house, they go to D'Iberville.
Interesting.
Yeah.
D'Iberville's really exploded.
It has.
In a good way. Yeah.
We, my relatives lived over in D'Iberville growing up, and we would take Pops Ferry Road. It was a single lane bridge. Pops Ferry Road, single lane traffic all the way there. And it seemed like it would take us 35, 40 minutes to get over to D'Iberville. Now it's just.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner. So.
Yeah, for sure. And they're building that big 4-lane highway running through there to connect the into Sangani, I think, and then with Washington Avenue. They're north of I-10, because that's where I used to. So the first time I took my wife on a date, she tells me this later, but I take the back way to get to the Grand Theater, right? And she had never been that way, and so she was actually worried that
You were
take it, whatever, high school,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good
you might
time.
be taking her mud riding or something.
Something. Yeah, I buried a Ford Probe out in Sunplex.
Gosh.
I was kind of a gearhead in high school, and so I bought a 98 Ford Probe, didn't have power steering, for 2 10-inch Sony Explode speakers, subwoofers, and $40 cash. It's a true story. Very, very true story. And so we took it out mud riding, and it got stuck, and so we crushed it out there, and it's probably buried somewhere.
You didn't bother to go dig it back out or anything else.
No, that's that belongs to them now.
Well, those power lines there, some of the kids in the neighborhood, some of the high school kids take their trucks along those power lines and do all that mud riding. My daughter came back after 4-wheeling out there, and I couldn't see. I couldn't even see what color her shirt was because it was brown from the mud. So
the dumb things you do as a kid. We used to, so in your ward, I think in your ward, yeah. So off of Ocean Springs Road, right? Mm-hmm. There's like a marina out there, or like a boat ramp. Well, that used to be closed. We'd sneak through that fence and we'd swim across. It used to be a rope swing. And so we'd go there and swim through the bayou, and jump off that rope swing, getting fights with St. Martin kids. And so, yeah. I was a bit of a hellion.
Yeah,
but now
I have a boat and I bring it into Davis Bayou, and the alligators I've seen, I don't think I want to be in the bayou anymore.
That's what I'm saying. It's so funny, the dumb things, because of the bravery that you have, because you don't know the dangers in the world. I would never do that, period. I'm not sure if I'd want to go kneeboarding in the bayou, because still, and especially after Katrina, like what if there's like a washing machine under there or something, but yeah.
Yeah. People come down to visit and they're like, oh, we can go kayaking on the bayou. I'm like, I need a bigger boat on the bayou, because I'm not so sure I want to do that. I've seen the size of the alligators back there.
Yeah. They got some big, well, and it became, I'm told that the gators got out of hand. I don't know if they still are, but they were issuing tags so you could go shoot alligators. Yeah. My dad got a couple of those.
Well, I was golfing out at Shell Landing, and there was one sitting right up by the green, and it had to be at least 10 feet long. I thought, I don't need to putt. I'm going to call myself a one putter here. I'm not going to 3-putt this one and run. So
yeah. There used to be a lot of gators on St. Andrews, when you got out closer towards the bayou there.
Yeah.
I forget what hole that is. I think it's on the front 9. Pretty sure it is. But anyway, no. I think it was the back 9. Because the front 9 wrapped around the front, I think, of the neighborhood. The back 9 went around the back. But anyway, it's a shame that that's not open still.
Yeah, that was a pretty course out there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But okay, well, let's talk about downtown. What ideas do you have about downtown? Because we've got a congestion problem to some degree, and again, people are probably going to get tired of me saying it this way, but my fear about this is that we're going to run into a point of diminishing marginal returns where businesses want to be down there. They build down there based on if you build it, they will come, but they don't want to come down there because they can't get access or it's inconvenient.
Right. We've seen a number of businesses move down there.
Yeah.
The Marina Soap Company, I think they used to be on Highway 90, one of the soap companies, and then they moved downtown.
Yeah, it seems some will buy like a shop somewhere and just wait for vacancy just to move in.
Wait for something to open.
That's how desirable it is.
Yeah. But then if you can't get down there and you can't park, and like I said, working at that breakfast joint, there was plenty of parking at 5 in the morning, but by 11 o'clock or noon on a weekend, especially, it's very hard to find a place to park, and some people probably just turn around and go elsewhere. But I don't know the solution. I've been sitting at Government Street Grocery, sitting there and watched rearview mirrors taken off cars because of the tightness of the road. I've seen it happen twice where people's rearview mirrors or the side mirrors got knocked off of their vehicles. What's the solution? I don't know. You can't widen the road because then you have no sidewalk.
I think I don't think it's a situation where you have a solution. I think it's a situation where you accept the proper trade-off, Now, for somebody who's worked down there, I mean, is it possible for it to be a pedestrian zone only?
It's possible, but there's a lot of people that I think don't want to park so far away and have to walk to be walking only. But it is possible.
Yeah.
Maybe an employee parking lot somewhere that's not being utilized, where the employees have transportation to their workplace, and that frees up a number of parking spots for customers to come in. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point about having something at least for the employees, so the businesses are least affected, because that's who you're trying to keep happy down there, right? And that's kind of who you're working for. Even if you're saying, how can we make it more accessible downtown? The real incentive there is to help the businesses so they can be more profitable, so you can raise tax revenue. To the degree that that's true, it might be in the city's interest to promote some sort of maybe pedestrian zone, but also have golf carts or some sort of transportation to move people from store to store from their parking. I don't know. I mean,
I thought it was great. One of the festivals they had, maybe it was last Peter Anderson, where they didn't have the buses running due to COVID, but there was an individual that had like a 6-pack golf cart that was for tips only.
Yeah.
They were picking people up and taking them down to the festival. So.
Yeah. Well, if the free market sees a need, the free market provides, it seems.
Right.
I didn't ask you, by the way, are you running as a Republican or Democrat or independent?
Republican.
Okay. Excellent. So, I should ask that because that would have given me a better frame. But in any case, so are the golf carts part of the problem downtown?
I haven't seen a problem.
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to see a problem with golf carts through my tinted windscreen on my golf cart.
Some of the golf carts are pretty entertaining when they go by. I'll go sit down there with my daughters, and we'll go to Pop Brothers or we'll go to Chard and sit outside. And people rent those golf carts and decorate them up and have their own little golf cart parade going up.
Oh,
and down.
Just ones that they rent?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
And people that do have their own golf carts will do that too.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty elaborate ones.
Yeah, they'll decorate them up and go by, and it's kind of like a mini parade, which we haven't been able to have a parade now for a year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was talking with Jennifer Burgess in Ward 1, and they do she wanted to put together like a neighborhood Mardi Gras parade with like golf carts, and I was like, let me know, I'll come down there and
that would be fun.
Be a part of that. Yeah, for sure. I think so. I mean, I'm surprised it's not more common, honestly, especially in COVID.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they started doing the Yardy Gras, decorating the houses and stuff like that.
Isn't that a cool thing that emerged?
That was an awesome idea.
Yeah, I love that. I was like, that's you got to take the good with the bad with the pandemic, and that's a good thing that emerged out of it that will probably continue in the future years, because it gives people a reason to, make the city more Mardi Gras-esque. I mean, Well,
and I think the people, especially along the coast, we take anything and try to make it a good thing.
Yeah.
We come out a little bit ahead just because of the positive attitude that we have down here.
Sure. Makes sense. So what about a parking garage? What's your
there's one going in, I'm hearing, downtown.
Okay.
I don't know all the details about it because I'm not in that
room. Yeah. And that's the tough thing, right? If you're coming in, trying, competing for a seat at the, as an alderman with an incumbent there, you're not in those, inner circle meetings. So,
I mean, I would love to see the plans. I think it needs to be aesthetically pleasing. It's got to fit into the community.
100%.
It can't just be a concrete box that's plopped down somewhere that, you see those all over New Orleans.
Yeah.
And, but I think if they can add more to it than just a parking lot.
Do you think that downtown is moving towards just a cleaner version of New Orleans with all the bars and whatnot? And
I don't know, because during the day and actually up until about 10 o'clock at night. I don't see the New Orleans bar scene at all. Now for a couple hours around 11 o'clock or so, then it's the it's
a bit dicey.
Older crowds. I would say older crowds, but to me, they're younger crowds because they're not older than me because I'm at home 10 o'clock. But I don't see it like New Orleans. New Orleans is I feel very extreme on the bars.
Yeah, yeah.
Our bars, the live music, where you can actually almost stand outside of the place and listen to the music. And it's a very, very, very friendly area.
Yeah. Yeah, the bustling nature of downtown pre-COVID, you could have walk 100 feet either direction and hear a different type of music, and of course all the bars are fantastic and they all have their own atmosphere. The grocery's kind of hipster-esque,
Well, and some nights you can go in one bar and play trivia or,
Oh yeah. I actually haven't done that yet since I've been down here. We won the Office trivia. I'm a huge Office fan. Are you a fan of The Office?
I do like The Office.
Yeah.
I like going
it's so
there.
Good.
Well, and what's so cool is you can say, oh, I'm at The Office.
Yeah.
That's just, it's just got something about it when you say that. So
yeah, for sure.
And then people are like, but I didn't think you worked anymore. I thought you were retired. Well,
What are your thoughts on making government one way?
It would save a lot of people's side mirrors if it was one way,
Right.
but I don't think that's going to work because I don't see a route around.
Yeah. It's either Bowen or 90.
Yeah. And when I worked down there, when the festivals would happen and I'd try to be getting down there to work, you don't want to do that to the neighbors. I don't think you want to do that to the neighborhoods that are right there off of Washington and Government, rerouting it through any of those places.
Yeah, I'm concerned something like that might actually lower the property values, and I could see citizens being pretty upset about that.
And I could see a lot of signs going out, children play here, and just...
Yeah. And then, of course, that would probably turn in to 20, 30 speed bumps down that road.
Yep. They bought that house in that location for a reason.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't to have traffic rerouted through their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is. Maybe we'll figure one out.
I'm sure. Well, and again, it could be the case that there's no good solution. So you're really just deciding on a different set of trade-offs. And to me, that seems like the only solution, unless the city's going to buy up city blocks and tear down buildings and fix it. And it's just, it doesn't make sense that would be the case.
Yeah.
But they are trying to invest down Porter, and move some traffic down Porter, which I think is a good move. But
I think so too. That's a great area down there. And it could be an extension of what we have off of Government.
So as we get towards the end of this, one thing we didn't talk about are kind of what are some problems in your ward that you're ready to, you think need more attention and.
Well, we do have a drainage issue.
Yeah.
And it's like peeling back an onion. The more that I learn about, the more comes to the surface. Trentwood does have a drainage problem that needs to be addressed. And from what I'm hearing, they're putting a bid out for a contract to fix the drainage problem. But just this past week, one of the ladies in the neighborhood had a sinkhole in her front yard. Yeah. So luckily, the city of Ocean Springs, they went out and found out that the pipe underneath was leaking, I think. I don't know. I spoke to her and they filled it in and fixed it. But the same issue is happening to the neighbors across the street. So rather than waiting for a contract to be let and then waiting another year for the project, because it could be up to a year before it's fixed, I feel like there's things that can be done now that need to be done. I don't know what they are. I'm not an engineer. But I think it really needs to be looked at for these people. And I've heard Parktown's got some drainage issues too, but I really haven't stepped into any of that or looked into that. So
I gotcha. Okay. Well, being a colonel in the Air Force, right? You had a wide a wide array of responsibility because of subordinate units underneath your level of command and whatnot. So it's kind of applicable to a city because you're going to have a wide array of different neighborhoods and different neighborhood needs. So how is your experience suited to be an alderman?
Wow. Well, one of my jobs in the Air Force is I was the Deputy Mission Support Group Commander at Dyess Air Force Base.
Okay, so I'm just going to break this down just as you're talking about it, just to make it more palpable, right? So at the wing level, we're talking about an entire base. So Keesler's a wing, and then within a group, like say for example the medical group, you'll have all of the like the dental clinic, the hospital, biomedical stuff like that.
Right.
Mission Support Group will have all of the sort of services, all the units that fulfill functions like human resource type functions, fitness centers.
It's basically
civil engineer.
If you look at the group commander for the Mission Support Group, it's kind of like the mayor.
Yeah.
It's a mayor position for the base. Mm-hmm. They don't do any of the operations. So anything that happens on the flight line with the airplanes taking off, landing, they don't do that. They do, however, they're in charge of the fuel that goes in those aircraft. So kind of the gas stations,
air traffic controllers,
air traffic controllers, air traffic controllers now are under the ops side of the house, not the mission support.
That just recently happened, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Because they were, I think it was a finance commander that signed the EPRs and stuff.
But you're civil engineers. So civil engineering, you've got everyone that repairs buildings, builds buildings.
Police, right?
Police, fire department, your communication, all your networks, your phones, your utilities pretty much fall under the mission support group.
Yeah.
Communication, anything you think to communicate, whether it be radar equipment, radios, the post office falls under the mission support group. All of base housing falls under mission support group.
Okay.
Contracting. So anytime you have a contract let, and has to be reviewed, our contracting squadron reviews all of that. Services, so the base gym, the base pools,
dining facilities,
the
base education,
officers club.
Welfare programs like the Airmen and Family Readiness Center.
That's all under the Mission Support Squadron. So all of that having to do with getting your ID card or those type things.
Public affairs, probably?
Public affairs falls directly under the wing.
Under the wing, that's right.
Because they speak for the boss, the big boss. So, but the budget for the Mission Support Group to maintain the entire base, it's in excess of probably $80 million a year. To run the base. And I was in charge of the facilities group committee where all of the groups on base, the medical group, the maintenance group, the ops group, they would all bring their issues, building facility issues to the board. And we'd have to prioritize what comes first, what needs to be done the most. And it would become a battle between the groups saying, well, you're giving them this much money. Well, yeah, we're giving them that much money because the facility that they have a leak in is covering that B-1 bomber that we need covered. So you have to prioritize things, and what's more important to get done is not always the popular decision.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So you've got a lot of experience, and I don't know if you ever get comfortable telling somebody they can't have something that in their eyes they desperately need, but you seem to have some unique experience in this already.
I do. And it is a tough job. When I was at Dyess, I actually was in charge of writing the base installation excellence package.
Okay.
And so
this is an award, yes?
It's an award,
okay.
And it's competition throughout all the bases in the Air Force. And you put together a package and you talk about things you've done to improve the base. Using ingenuity, using ways of saving money to make things better, saving the military, the Air Force money, while you're making your base a better place to live. And while we were there, we were awarded the Base Installation Excellence Award based on all the things we had done at the base. By winning that award, they then hand you an amount of money to now spend on your base and to do more upgrades on your base.
Right, yeah.
But because they give you this money, and I think that year it was $80 million to invest into Dyess Air Force Base. And they give you that money and you have to spend it within a year, and it has to go for facility type things. But because they give you that much to improve your base, you're not eligible to apply for that award again for, I think it may be 1 or 2 years.
Wow.
Because they've just given you money to make your base even better. So if you go and compete, of course, you're probably going to win again because you've had the money to do the improvement.
Interesting.
So,
yeah. That's interesting. So, and this might be a fun experiment just to walk through. So, if, we'll talk about whenever the process for me to get a mission when I was flying, right? So when they get a mission down, we'll start with my unit got an email saying that there was a mission and they needed to man it and whatnot, right? So the information system that they got the email fell under your command, right? Because it's network.
The taskings.
Yep. The network, the email, the telephone they used to call me.
Oh yeah.
Right. When I had to get my bags, like my A bag, right? That fell under your command.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
At one point that was under a different group, but yes.
Gotcha. What about vehicle ops?
Vehicle ops, transportation falls under the mission support group.
So transportation. And then so when I was driven out to get all the equipment I needed for my flight, all of the secure comm stuff, that's all under your command.
Communication squadron falls under
the
that.
Flight kitchen that provided our flight meal, all your command. Whenever they filed for flight pay, all your command.
Right. They have to go to take that back. Finance fell under the wing.
It did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finance fell under the wing.
We found the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then of course being on the plane is primarily is primarily under ops. But even the communication that's used by your traffic control to talk to you, all of that falls under
mission support group.
Yeah.
Anything to support the mission.
That's right.
So
yeah, that's interesting. Well, what other message do you want to get out to your ward?
I'm going to try and get out and start walking and shaking hands and talking to people, but I would love for them to email me with their concerns or thoughts on my sign that I have all around town. It says giving you a voice, and I'd like to hear their voice.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what their concerns are.
Yeah. That makes sense. How do people get in touch with you? Like, do you want to give your email out here or your Facebook page or?
Yeah, I do have an email.
Okay.
That I set up just for this, and it's just Melanie Milburn Ward 6 at Yahoo.
Okay. So. And I'll put that on the post on the website as well. And yeah, excellent. Melanie, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It has been awesome talking to you. And I think the gym back there, I'm going to have to get my kids signed up so that I can come over and take an adult gymnastics class or something. Yeah, shout out to Bow and Arrow Cheer, and he'll just do individual classes as well. David McVeigh and the other instructors. But it's interesting because we can kind of speak the same language with the Air Force stuff. It was really interesting to hear how you kind of said, well, the mayor's kind of basically what I did with this job, because you have these different people competing for a piece of the pie of this money, and it's a lot of money, and you're having to prioritize. That's very much what you do in the city. Granted, you're doing it as an alderman, but you're participating in this process it's a proxy. It's a proxy for what you're about to do. Right. So it makes it, you've got a unique skill set for this, so that's very exciting, and your ward benefits from that as well. And it's learning the new rules. 100%. Rules and regulations like we always have. That's right. And which rules, are the ones that are really going to be the gotchas. Yeah. So. Yeah, fair enough. Well, look, I'm excited that you're running. I'm excited that you're part of this amazing group of talented people that are running and wishing to represent the people of Ocean Springs, and the people are the ones that benefit from this the most. And Melanie, again, I've had a great time talking to you. Thank you for coming by. Thank you, Brian. And best of luck on your campaign. Thank you. All right, everybody. We'll see you. Oh boy.